In this section, we will talk about linear functions. A linear function is a function whose graph produces a line. Linear functions can always be written in the form of f of x equals mx plus b or f of x equals to b plus mx. Sometimes f of x can be written as y, so we will get y equals mx plus b or y equals b plus mx. F of x is a function form of y equals mx plus b. B is the initial or starting value of the function, also called the y-intercept, when the input x is equal to 0, and m is a constant rate of change, which is the slope. This form is called the slope-intercept form. Here's an example. The population of a town in 2005 was 58,000. The population has been growing by 1,200 people each year since 2005. Write an equation for the population p of x where x is the number of years after 2005. So this is the key part right here. So let's just take the first part. Write an equation for the population where x is the number of years after 2005. So this implies that in year 2005, the value of x equals to 0 because remember, x is the number of years after 2005. So in 2005, no years have passed, so x is equal to 0. So let's write the equation for p of x. So the population in terms of x, where x is the number of years since 2005, is going to be 58,000. This was the initial population in 2005, and it grows by 1,200 people each year after 2005. So that's our equation. P of x equals to 58,000 plus 1,200x. Second part says, what is the population of the town in 2013? So this is where the 2005 x equals to 0 comes in. So in 2013, remember, x is the number of years since 2005. Since 8 years have passed, the value of x is equal to 8 in 2013. So for the second part, we want to figure out what is p of 8. This is 58,000 plus 1,200 times 8. And if you calculate that, then p of 8 will be 67,600. So the population in 2013 is 67,600 people. The constant rate of change, or the slope, of a linear function is given by the change in output, or the change in the y values, over the change in input, or the change in the x values. The formula that we have often seen is y2 minus y1, which is the rise, divided by x2 minus x1, which is the run. So let's find the slope of the following lines in two different ways. First, let's just count. So pick any point. Let's take the point -5, 2, and we want to get to the point -1, 0. So we are going to go down 2, and we're going to go across 1, 2, 3, 4. So the slope m is -2/4 or -1/2. The -1/2, it just means that every time you go down 1, you can go across 2 and still end up on the line. So -2/4 is equivalent to -1/2. Let's do the same problem using the formula. So let's take our first point. We'll call it -5, 2. The order of it doesn't matter. And the second point, we'll call it -1, 0. So this is x1, y1, the x and y of the first point. This is x2, y2, the x and y of the second point. Our slope m is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So 0 minus 2 is -2. -1 minus -5 is -1 plus 5, which is 4. -2/4, once again, reduces to be -1/2. Same exact slope. Let's take the second equation. This time, let's take the lower point. Again, it doesn't matter which point you start with. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So the rise is 4. We're going to go across 1, 2, 3. The run is 3. So our slope m is equal to 4/3. Now let's take these 2 points, which are -1, -2, and 2, 2, and apply the formula. So this is x1, y1. Always label your points. x2, y2. So we have y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So 2 minus -2, that's 2 plus 2, or 4. 2 minus negative 1, that's 2 plus 1, or 3. Watch for the double negatives. We have one negative from the formula and one negative because the actual 2 is also negative. Same thing on the denominator. One negative from the formula, one negative because the actual 1 is negative. And the two negatives back to back will make a positive. Okay, so once again, slope is 4/3. Lines that are going down from left to right have a negative slope. Lines that are going up left to right have a positive slope. Here's another example. F of x is a linear function with f of negative 3 is equal to negative 7 and f of 2 equals 9. Find an equation for f of x. So first off, the parentheses contains the input, which is x, and this is the output y. So our first point is the point negative 3, 7. Second point, the input is 2, the output is 9. So our second point is going to be the point 2, 9. And we want to find the equation in the form f of x equals to mx plus b. So here are the basic steps. Step number 1, we got to calculate the slope. So label this as x1, y1. Label this as x2, y2. So our slope is y2 minus y1, which is 9 minus 7, divided by x2 minus x1. That's 2 minus negative 3. This gives us 2 on the numerator. Negative, negative become positive, and it gives us 5 on the denominator. So our slope is 2/5. Secondly, choose a point. Doesn't matter which one you pick. You could pick negative 3, 7, 2, 9. Let's just go with the first one. So the point we choose is going to be negative 3, 7. In step 3, we're going to plug in the slope and the chosen point into the equation f of x equals to mx plus b. And remember, f of x is equivalent to y. So our slope is 2/5. That's our m value. Our x is negative 3 and our y is 7. So instead of f of x, this whole thing gets replaced with a 7 because the y value is 7. The slope m is 2/5. The value of x is negative 3. And we have plus b. So if we keep going, we have 7 on the left. On the right side, quick review of multiplication. Negative 3 is equivalent to negative 3 over 1. And in multiplication, we always multiply the numerators and the denominators. We don't need an LCD, or a least common denominator. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. 5 times 1 is 5. So we have 7 is equal to negative 6 over 5 plus b. Finally, to get the b by itself, we are going to add 6 over 5 to each side. Let me go down here. So we get b equals to 7 plus 6 over 5. Now, when we multiply fractions, we can just multiply numerators, multiply denominators. We don't need an LCD. When adding and subtracting fractions, we do need an LCD. So the 7 is like a 7 over 1. So always make the integer into a fraction by adding a 1 on the denominator. Then, in order to convert the 1 into a 5, we're going to multiply by 5. Multiply the denominator by 5, which means you multiply the numerator also by 5. So b is equal to 35 over 5 plus 6 over 5, which is 41 over 5. So our equation overall is that f of x, or y, is equal to our slope, which is 2/5 times x, that's your mx, plus b, which is 41 over 5. So the initial value, or the y-intercept, is 41 over 5. And the rate of change, or the slope, is 2/5. A clothing business finds there is a linear relationship between the number of shirts N it can sell and the price P it can charge per shirt. In particular, historical data shows that 7,000 shirts can be sold for a price of $78, while 12,000 shirts can be sold at a price of $58. So first off, let's figure out which is the input and which is the output if our linear equation is going to be in the form P is equal to Mn plus B. So look on the right side. the slope m is being multiplied by n. Whatever variable is next to the slope, that is our input. So our input is n, which is the number of shirts. So the input is the number of shirts, or n. What is the output? The output is the price, or p. Express each given set as a point. So our first point, remember, our x is the number of shirts, and our y is the price. So for 7,000 shirts can be sold at a price of $78 in that order, x, y, and 12,000 shirts can be sold for a price of $58. Notice that when the price decreases, we sell more shirts, because if the shirts are cheaper, then more people are going to buy them. Okay, and we want to find the linear equation, P is equal to Mn plus B. This we will work on in class. So you can work on this if you'd like, but we will go over this in class. Now, to graph a linear equation, here are 3 steps. Step 1, solve for y. Get the y by itself. Step 2, plot the y-intercept, which means we set x equal to 0. And step 3, use the slope to find additional points. Here's an example. Graph the equation y equals to negative 3x plus 5. Let's go through our steps. Step number 1, solve for y. The y is by itself. So step 1 is done. Step 2, plot the y-intercept, which means we set x equal to 0. So to get the y-intercept, we're going to say that y is equal to negative 3 times 0 plus 5. Okay, set the x value equal to 0. So negative 3 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 5 is 5. But because this is a point, we can't just say y equals 5. We've got to write that as an ordered pair. So the ordered pair would be the point 0, 5. That's our starting or initial point. Then we need the slope to plot additional points, and our slope is negative 3. So let's see what the graph looks like. Our starting point is a point 0, 5. Our slope is negative 3. If there's no denominator, we put a 1 underneath. It's like negative 3 over 1. This means we are going to, from the initial point 0, 5, we would go down 1, 2, 3, and go across 1. Okay, so once again, we are going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to go across 1. And that's our line. Our line is sloping downwards because the slope is negative. Okay, one more thing for this this lesson, and then we'll do part 2 in the next video. Find the x-intercept, set the y equal to 0, solve for x. Find the y-intercept, set x equal to 0, and solve for y. So find the intercepts of the following equation. Negative 5x plus 4y equals to 20. So let's do the x-intercept first. To find the x-intercept, we set the y value equal to 0. So we have negative 5x plus 4 times 0 equals to 20. 4 times 0 is 0, so we get negative 5x equals to 20, which means x equals to negative 4. Always write this point as an ordered pair, so the point is going to be negative 4, comma 0. The x is negative 4, the y is 0. For the y-intercept, we are going to set the x value equal to 0. So we have negative 5 times x, which is 0, plus 4y equals to 20. Negative 5 times 0 is 0, so we get 4y equals to 20 divided by 4. We get y is equal to 5. Write that as an ordered pair, which will be the point 0, comma 5, because the x value is 0 and the y value is 5. Okay, we have one more video in this lesson, which is going to be next.